Joining me right now is Terry Turchie. He's the former Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI's Counterterrorism Division. Terry, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. And one of the issues that I was trying to get at over the weekend when we were talking about this was if Russia and China and all of these other state actors have been, hacking for so long, why are we getting religion on this now?
Well, I think that's the key question, and actually we've known about these kind of things for a long time. The KGB, for example, in the old Soviet Union, and now the successor to that, the SVR, have always made it a priority to go after our politicians and our political parties. They collect information, they do assessment, and then they use that assessment to look for operational things that they can do. I think this is just the latest, and this is the first time the public has really kind of gotten into the weeds with this because it's been made an issue. The question really kind of for me is, after you look at this report that just came out, is it's really kind of convenient and coincidental that all of the conclusions in it kind of fit the narrative of the Democratic Party's election points. And that really bothers me. The other thing that bothers me a lot about all intelligence reports is that I think people don't realize that the threat really has always been defined by the politicians. The threat has not been defined by the people doing the work out in the field. So if an intelligence collector is not going by the list of what the people are interested in, he or she is not going to really have a lot of luck in their career. So this is kind of a problem, and I think this report reflects some of those problems that we've dealt with before.
Are we hacking them?
Clearly, we're doing the same things to them that they're doing to us.
Right.
And again, this is just not a surprise to see some of these conclusions. The surprise is, why didn't you bring all this up before the election was the election results were in? And of course, they've thought about that in this report. About the fourth paragraph says, we've learned a lot since the election was over, and we've included some of that to get a better level of credibility to this report. So it really kind of bothers me, and we'll have to see where it all goes. But Americans should know that for about the last 5 decades, from the time I was young and getting into the Bureau, the Russians, the Chinese, all of these people and their intelligence services priority target our political parties.
Yeah. No, I think it's really important to note that, because obviously now one portion of the electorate is trying to legitimize Donald Trump. That's why it's bringing this up now, because we know this has been going on, and we know it goes on both sides. The U.S. is listening in on them, they're listening in on us.
Exactly.
I mean, let's be honest. I want to ask you about Trump's immigration policy. The president-elect has promised to crack down on sanctuary cities. It boggles the mind why the law has been blown off for so many years. How is it possible that we have laws in place and mayors just blow them off? I mean, the city made headlines a year and a half ago when Kate Steinle was shot to death. Obviously, an illegal immigrant was charged with her murder. Despite that controversial case, we still see California standing its ground on sanctuary cities here. Just last week, Democratic lawmakers in California tapped former Attorney General Eric Holder. They want him to do a potential showdown with the Trump administration. How do you see this?
Maria, think about it. We have a constitutional republic, and the foundation of it is the rule of law. It applies equally to everyone. Sanctuary cities completely blows that theory and that entire foundation apart. I didn't think we would ever have a conversation like this, that politicians and people in these cities could actually decide they don't want to enforce a law like this. And look at the operational aspect of it. It makes it very difficult for law enforcement, for the FBI, for the police, to track these people as they move from one of these sanctuary cities or counties to another. And while most of them may very well be the kind of routine illegal alien, some of these people are going to be terrorists. And just like we've talked about previously, where ISIS has expanded in the Middle East, has expanded across the northern part of Africa, has much more geography in which to plan and move about, we're seeing the same thing happen here with the sanctuary city idea. People can come in here, and if they want to develop cells, recruit people, and start acting like an intelligence service that has a sabotage component, that's exactly what they can do. And that's what this is allowed.
So what should be done? I mean, it feels like Donald Trump is going to be tough on this and actually ensure that mayors follow the law. I mean, is the only thing to do pull funding from some of these cities that continue to blow off the law?
I think pulling funding is one option. I think that one of the things that people need to realize is that probably most of the American public didn't even know before that we had this kind of thing going on. And I think once it gets out there, it's probably made a big difference in how people even viewed the election and who they were going to vote for. When you really kind of put it down to its base, it's about power and it's about trying to figure out how to get votes, and I think it has very little to do with equality or anything else. I think it's people and parties trying to get certain areas of the country to vote for them, and it poses huge law enforcement challenges.
It's really unfortunate how politics have seeped into everything.
And that kind of is a real good point when it comes to dealing with terrorism. That's why so many people have so much of a problem talking about terrorism. There's kind of a line that you straddle where you get into terrorism and civil liberties, and politics is right in the middle, and it can really mess things up if it's taken too far.
What are you expecting from the Trump administration? How do you think things changed?
I expect a couple of key changes that I think will make a big difference. One is, I think this kind of war on the police that was kind of perpetuated by the Department of Justice is going to end. And that's important.
Thank heavens.
That's important because the police depend upon, the FBI depends upon kind of a bond and a trust with the public. If the government of all places is telling people, you got to be careful about trusting the police, you've got big problems. And when you really get down to the bottom line here, I think our big threat is from terrorism. I think our big threat is going to continue to be from lone actors, from groups like ISIS, and from state sponsors of terror like Iran. And I think we're going to be talking about this, unfortunately, for a long time to come.
Does the FBI have the tools that it needs in place to actually effectively take down ISIS?
I think the FBI has sufficient tools to really be a big player in this. And I think they've obviously shown that by thwarting a lot of these attacks. I think the local police have a big role to play. I think the problem now is volume, sheer volume, and also the complexity of dealing with something like the lone offender. That's an area we have a lot more to learn about and are just now beginning our understanding, even though we spent most of the 90s chasing lone offenders.
Well, really interesting. Terry, great to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Maria.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Terry Turchie, FBI, joining us there.